Hola, bienvenidos a Lightspeed Spanish. Today I'm talking about language interference. What is language interference? Well, that's when you're learning another language and you start mixing stuff up and you don't know if it's correct or not. I bet it's happened to you before. Hablamos de todo en la segunda parte. Ojalá tuviera yo un español más decente. So let me tell you what happened to me the other day. Right, my son came into the kitchen with his plate. I'm going to do another video on adolescence and teenage years and the difficulty of parents having to live through it. But he came through with his plate and he put his plate on the bench, just on the bench, okay? And I said to him, it doesn't cost anything to put your plate in the sink. And of course, my son's bilingual. He didn't bat an eyelid. That makes absolute sense, just as it made absolute sense to me. But afterwards I thought, wait a minute, I don't think we would say that in the UK. In Spanish, perfect. Oye, no te cuesta nada meter el plato en la pila. In English, we would say, it doesn't take anything to put the plate in the sink. It doesn't take any effort, right? Normally, it just doesn't take anything. So I said it in English, but with the Spanish structure. And I had a moment of where I was thinking, but do we say that or not? This has happened so many times. It's happened to Cynthia so many times. And my guess is it happens to you too. The longer that you learn another language, the more integrated the language becomes, the more you start having these moments of, well, it sounds perfect to me, but I don't know if that's what we say. And understand, that isn't me wondering, do you say that in Spanish? No. Do you say that in English? I am confused sometimes about it. So this is called language interference, and I understand why they would give it that name. But it also has another name, which is negative transfer. Now, I've got a problem with that name. I don't think it's negative transfer at all. I think it's positive transfer. It's beautiful that you've got this whole extra bit of language coming into your own and making it. Well, I remember once talking to somebody in English and they said, you talk weirdly. And I know why, because I was so focused on Spanish that my English was suffering, let's say that. I recall my son when he was younger, one of them, I don't know which one, saying something like, ¿Qué es eso para? Okay? Fantastic in English. What's that for? Of course you can't finish a sentence with a preposition in Spanish, but in English we do. You shouldn't, but we do all the time. We love it. What's that for? And it goes on. It goes on and it happens, especially when you're very focused, when you hear one structure all the time, the other one. I don't live in the UK, so I'm not hearing English constantly, and sometimes I forget. Other things that happen when you're learning a language, when you're getting deeply into it, is that you find that the other language has better words sometimes. It just has better words, and so instead of using the word in your own language, you use the other language. Now that's fine when you're talking to people who are bilingual. It doesn't work so well when you're talking to people who aren't bilingual because they don't know what you're talking about. I'll give you an example. So we've got two words in English. The first one is willy-nilly. And willy-nilly really means not done properly. Hecho sin amor. Sin amor. And what happens is my wife, my beautiful wife, she'll be talking in Spanish to me. Normally when we're talking to one another, you can do this. You can't talk to random strangers by, using English words. But she would say to me something like, bueno, Gordon, lo has hecho un poco willy-nilly, no? Okay. What does she mean? Lo has hecho sin amor, Gordon. And it could be true. Sometimes I do things un poco willy-nilly. So she's got that word. And you see, you can say it in Spanish, but what happens, I think, is you get these subtle differences by language, and some words just sound a bit better. They've got a bit more impact, and I think that's when we choose to switch them around. For example, if I get a shock, right, if I get a surprise now, before I would swear in English. Now I don't. Why? Because Spanish swear words are much better. Generally, they've got a lot more flavour to them, mucha salsa, and it just sounds better. So somebody does something, and my first reaction is to go, hostia puta. It just comes out. I don't think about it. It's an unconscious thing, rather than, well, good gracious, as I would have said years ago, well, good grief. Yeah, now I just say, hostia puta. My wife also has another one, which is this word she uses, and the word is plonked. Plonked, right? Plonked is just putting something down, sin amor. And so she often says to me, bueno, Gordon, parece un poco plonked eso, ¿no? ¿Qué es? Lo has puesto, lo has colocado mal, lo has hecho sin amor. But when she says, me parece un poco plonked, se entiende. Everybody understands. Well, between her and I, we understand. It's perfect. Plonked. And so this happens that we choose words sometimes. Now, in Mexico, I know it's an art form. It's called the Spanglish. And they will mix English and Spanish in sentences all of the time. That's quite extreme. I'm not talking about extreme things. Here in Spain, English words are used loads now. People are slipping them in, and I don't know whether it sounds like why. And especially in the world of business. If I've heard marketing once, I've heard it 1,000 times. And so I'd be interested to know whether you're English learning Spanish and you find that you're starting to get structures in your mind that you know aren't English, but they come out when you're speaking English. And if you're Spanish, are you finding the same thing, that sometimes it just comes out wrongly? I remember my friend David, and he said to me, the other day, Gordon, I said to my family, somebody in my family, voy a tomarme una ducha. And he said, because I've heard I'm going to take a shower. Obviously, he made it reflexive, thank God, but he still used, that isn't how you say it. Voy a ducharme. And just out of interest, in the UK, we don't say I'm going to take a shower. We say I'm going to have a shower. And in the US, they say I'm going to take a shower. We're just going to have it. We're going to have it and keep it. In the US, they're going to take it somewhere else. So be careful if an American says they're going to have a shower in your house, they could be walking away with your shower. And I'll leave you with this one last story, which is when Cynthia and I, my beautiful wife, we met for the first week, and she came over and she had a cold. Okay, she was sniffly and she's a bit coughy and all of that. And I remember to this day, she got in the car and she sat down and she said, woof, no sé qué me pasa, estoy un poco constipada. Now, at the time, I wasn't aware that the word constipado meant to have a cold. The only word that I could make reference to was the English word, which is constipated. And I thought this, in that moment, I thought, wow, she's only been here for a day. And already she feels comfortable enough to tell me that she's constipated. Which is nice, but also at the same point I thought, maybe this person has a problem with oversharing. But no, she was saying, I have a cold. And when I told her what I thought she'd said, well, you can imagine how embarrassed we both were and how much we laughed. And we still talk about it to this day. Has anything like that happened to you? If it has, put in the comments. I'd love to read it. Pues muchas gracias, chicos. Nos vemos la próxima vez. Hasta luego. Ojalá tuviera yo un español